I'm George Boiter, I'm a watercolour artist, and today we're on the Thames, just outside a little village called Clifton, Hampden. And as you can see, the scene behind me, it's a nice, fairly quiet stretch of water with a bridge spanning the river. And so there's reflections. There's quite a few compositional issues to resolve before I actually start painting, and that's what I'll do now as I take a look at how to draw this composition out. See you soon. We're going to do the drawing first of all. The drawing is a rendering in quite light pencil work of a composition. Now the composition is not necessarily about copying what's in front of me. It's a nice, still, tranquil scene on the banks of the Thames, as it happens. But it won't stay like this. Boats will go up and down. They've already passed by, and the scene, in order to have more interest, it invites some human interaction. So I think it demands a boat on the river somewhere. The arches themselves are interesting features, but the bridge itself is very low on architectural interest. It's just a barrier across the centre of our composition space. So I think what I'm going to do is push the bridge up in the composition a bit. So there's less sky. The sky's not very interesting today. It's flat. All of the interest is really from the bridge down and into this foreground area. So having taken a photograph earlier, I'm going to bear this in mind, because I've cropped it in such a way that I think that could be interesting. I'll just pop that there. A couple of boats came through earlier, and they stirred up all of the reflections, and I think gave it more dynamism with these lines. So I'm going to try and do something like this. Maybe put a couple of cyclists on the bridge or something. So let's go with that. So the bridge, I'm at a low angle here, so the bridge is going to go across here. So what's important in a composition is to think, where's the centre of the composition, and do I want anything to be on that centre, on the crosshairs of these centre lines? You may not. 9 times out of 10 you would want to shift your focal point to somewhere on a third here. And just as I look at the bridge, there's a nice picturesque little boat with some visitors coming through under the arch. You can't see it, I don't think. Anyway, let's carry on. So I'm going to have an arch about here, and another arch about there. There's an arch there, and there's one probably there. I may have to adjust these. I also, taking a hard look at this, I don't want a line parallel to the top and bottom. I want a bit of a diagonal. So my bridge is going to go across here like this. And already it gives you a little bit of an angle. There's some trees going to be there and some trees here to hold in the composition. My eye level, and therefore my horizon line, is probably somewhere around there, looking through this right hand arch. And these pillars are deceptively wide. I've got to make sure that is, I've got that right, otherwise everything will look, the bridge will look a bit frail and spindly. I'm going to have some tree foliage here to give me foreground, and probably got some of this vegetation here. I might cut it back a little bit, it's a bit untidy. So my eye level horizon line there doesn't appear again, because by the time we get to here I can actually see caravans. I'm not necessarily going to show caravans. I'm just trying to get the composition worked out in my head. So you can see the necessity of drawing this in a very light, tentative manner. Very important to take your time with this. If your drawing is not right here, the painting will never work. So right in the middle of my composition here is this pillar. Pretty close to the centre now. And I have to get this right, otherwise, because everything else hangs off it. Everything else hangs off it. And just because I've changed that line, I'm going to use this rubber to just confirm which lines are the important ones. I'm going to get involved in detail under here. It's simply a shadow, but I'm going to get the height of the bridge right as well. This maybe comes a little bit higher. And another thing to look at is the negative shapes. This is a negative shape looking through the arch. And it's very important to get that right. It's a kind of checkpoint for your drawing. We've got this and this, this, and then this. So I'm looking at the proportions here. To see if they match up to what I'm looking at. And we've got a couple of swans with 3 cygnets have come in to the shore here just to audition for a part in the painting, I think. You never know, they may get it. They may get that part. Usually when you're on location like this, something happens and it offers itself up for inclusion in the painting, and it's usually a good sign. Yeah. Okay. So you can see how I've let this emerge. Here. So we've got another arch and another negative shape to work with here. And of course there's an element of perspective here. This one we see more under the arch here. And so this pillar is thicker than this one. We see more of everything here. Well, keep going. This is not one of these ones that can be done quickly. I didn't realise that until I started. And then there's these buttresses here, which give a little bit of character to the bridge. And as long as I get this bit done, I think I can take some liberties, also known as artistic license, with other elements. I can lose an arch here really, because I don't think it doesn't really feature. But whilst this seems all very precise, when it comes to painting this, it needs character, and that will require brushstrokes as opposed to filling in carefully between the lines. There must be some element of perspective there. So, how's this going? That's interesting. This shape here is really quite that negative shape there. And then we have trees which will come in here. Clump of trees here. then we've got all this stuff here. And there's actually some. Okay, so far so good. Now, there's the whole reflection thing to take into account now. Yeah. So if I go back to my photo that I took, it was something like that. And so we see through here into the distance, and there's some boats there. There's a bed of reeds here, trees, a little bit of sky here, nice reflection, and over here, instead of the caravan, we're going to have this boat. No, I've made a mistake here. Yeah, I missed out an arch, so we are going to lose that one. The camera does not lie. So this is where that negative shape occurs. There's negative shape here. I don't feel like I've got enough archway on it. Not enough curve here. Let's just clear this drawing up a little bit. This is definitely one of these ones where I'm going to have to step back and have a good hard look at this. So each of these has got a shadow, which gives us a nice contrast into the distance. I'm going to take a step back from this. Okay, so so far so good. That took a lot more consideration than I had originally thought. Then I have to add in the boat, which features around about here. And goes to about there. So I'm drawing this from my phone now. Which, given modern technology, the necessity of it is that I know artists of yore didn't have all of these aids, but if you have them, then you might as well use them. And so the boat is a launch, really. It would be nice to have something more picturesque, but nothing's appeared, and I don't want to just make it up. So let's see what we get there. I'll rub some of this out. That's the shape. There we go. Always think in terms of shapes. I think I'll simplify. It's not, as I say, it's not particularly interesting looking boat. I'm sure the owner doesn't think that. But the boat is there. Now, I'm going to just take a look at the shapes of the reflections. Just do a bit of that, and then they go off there. Yeah, these are going to be tricky. And then I did say something about, well, let's take a look. Maybe there are two cyclists up here. Leaning forward on their bikes. You know that they're cyclists simply by the shape. I hope. So, I think we've got our drawing. I have to be convinced about this drawing before I go further. There we are. Boats here. I can see right off into the furthest distance here, the reed bed. And there's a couple of cyclists, yeah, that's good. Yeah, that's about right. I'm just going to put them closer together. Are they wearing helmets? Yeah. Okay, riding side by side. And then we've got a little bit of colour here. And then these this was the wake of a boat that went past previously, so I shall think about how I'm going to tackle that in due course. This is all going to go into trees. So our composition so far, as ever, bookending the composition, we've got some mass to just hold it in. We've got a shallow diagonal, a little bit of perspective here, and this is the feature. There's our eye level. This will be fairly dark, but it's just a frame for this, really. So that's the drawing. The drawing is now set, and I move on to the second stage, which is the wash. The wash essentially is the placing of the lightest tones. There'll be the lightest tones in the finished painting. And we've got the light tones are quite clear here. It's the sky, where it's reflected, here and here. But I have to say the sky is so overcast and dull. It's I think it needs a little bit of help. So I'm going to create a little bit more colour. And so I'm going to do this light wash right down here. I think I might put a bit of a vignette here, as though we've got a little bit of blue sky up above us. Might be interesting. And then this will be quite dark, really, because it's against the light. We're painting against the light. So I don't want the wash to be so wet that it just takes a long time to dry. Let's just get it established anyway. Just picking up some leftovers from yesterday's painting. And I'll float in a little bit of blue here, maybe a little bit more. There we are. So we get down to around about here. And carry on. Just keeping my eye on some of this. I'll keep my spray handy too. It's a little hint of something in the sky there. I'll do a little bit of that too. A little bit of warmth, and then carry on bringing this down under the bridge. I'll just isolate this boat shape and work on that later. Keep that in play, so to speak, with a bit of spray. Okay, now I'm going to bring the water down here. Bring the wash down, I should say. I may need a little bit of these sparkly bits there later. And I can do something here. Carrying on. Now, I did mention something about sorry, go on. absent there. Yeah, what I'm going to do in this corner is add a bit more blue and make it darker as we get into the corner. Little boat coming into view here. And I'll just go back in here, a bit more darkness in this corner. Feels better. Yeah, that should help us later. Okay, now I can move into this right hand side here. I just found a bit of my pencil in the paint. Let's try and pick that out. There we go. Okay, so yeah, we'll need some highlights here. So I'm going to scumble in some of this. And yeah, we'll require some of this later. Maybe even a bit of burnt sienna there. And I want some of this, I'm sure. No reason why I can't do it now. So I'm picking up a variety of bits and pieces here. We just want to create some interest in this area, which can be exploited later, I've got no doubt. So, and maybe a moment to just do a little bit of splattering. I've got some flowers in front of me there, quite nice. And just a bit of colour harmony for the bridge. Go on the warm side with these. I'm just putting out some. This is rose madder. This is rose madder. And let's give that a little splatter here, I think. There we go. Gotta watch I don't do too much here. I just got to establish some of the lighter tones. Just pick that up. I can do a little bit here probably. Yeah. Okay, so far so good. I'm going to leave that as our quite subtle initial wash. That's the wash done. Our wash is now dried sufficiently. Still a little bit damp here, but it's dried sufficiently on the bridge area, which is where I'm going to start my wet and wet third stage of the watercolour. So happy with the sky, it's very subtle, it's not calling attention to itself, but it has given it a certain mood. This, I'll start here, and I'm going to create some distance by, instead of using green, I'm going to go quite blue here and then introduce the green. And that will create some distance, I think. The furthest away point in the picture. I'll leave some of this here for boats, might attend to that later. And then I'll try to get into the bridge, and I've got to get the tonal difference between this and this, bridge and sky, to be strong enough. If the tonal difference between this and this is not enough, the bridge will just look insubstantial. So as I look with my eyes, I see lots of variation in brickwork, colour and everything. I've got to discard that and get the tone right. So first of all, just check my colours here. Have I got enough? I'm just going to pick up. Put some light red in here. That's light red. Thinking of the bridge there. This is brown madder. Brown madder is a powerful colour, so it must be used sparingly. It's got quite a lot of red in it. Raw sienna looks very like yellow ochre, which is here, but is sufficiently different to be used for specific purposes. It's got a little bit more green in it, I find. Now, I've got cool grey here, which is used to darken the tonal value of a hue that you've mixed. It won't interfere with the colour. It will just darken it. But it's a cool grey. This is a warm grey. I know they all look like black. And then we've got neutral grey here. So you use these in mixes. And this one here, I'm going to put some of that out. That is lavender. It's used for neutralising warm mixes and thickening up the consistency of your pigment. And that's important because the thicker the pigment, the deeper the tone. Okay, so let's take a look at this faraway distance. I've ditched the squirrel mop that I did the wash with, and I'm now on a number 12 synthetic sable. I'm going to pick up some cobalt blue, and I'm going to keep this quite pale to begin with. So as I said, I want this to be distance. This is my distance. And then I'll bring in some green. A little bit more tone. Okay. And this here is slightly warmer. Here, the reeds. And then we get slightly darker at the base of these, as we do at the base of this. And then we've got these boats, which were just shapes. They are just shapes. I could use a smaller brush, but it would then be tempting to get into too much detail. These are just boats. They'll make sense once I attend to the base of them. But I'm not going to do that now. Just treat them as shapes. Okay. And we'll come back and do the river area there a bit later. Okay, it's time to do the bridge. And to start with a basis of burnt sienna and ultramarine blue, because those two colours are kind of soulmates from opposite sides of the colour spectrum, but depending on how you mix them together you can get quite warm, deep tones, or you can get quite cool ones. What I need is a body of pigment consistency, enough of it so that I can do the whole bridge and work in some variations. So I'll just spend some time working on that. Maybe a little bit of cadmium red in here. Everything you put into a mix has an influence. Once it all dries, it may not look like it when you pick it up, but all the colours separate out. This is a light red, and if it gets too hot in terms of colour, I can always cool it down with a little bit of this lavender. As you can see, it takes the heat out of the colour, but I'm concerned here that I have enough pigment. I'm going to use some warm grey here. So that's the hue. I can affect the tone of it, make it darker with this without affecting the hue. It's a darker version now of the same hue. And I'm getting enough pigment here, I hope. Because this will all, of course, when I apply it, it will open out, and when it dries, it'll open out even more. So I just need lots of it. Yeah, I'm being careful, frankly, because this is there's a bit of a make or break point. Got to get this right. Quite a lot of movement on the river now. This little boat in front of me is getting ready to go off. There's a boat coming through the arch. and I can hear something else on my left hand side. So I'm just going to take a look at this boat as it comes through. Yeah, it's about there that I'm going to paint my one. So why I'm looking is I can see where the light is hitting the top deck and giving you an idea of where the sun is. So let's just have a little look at that. Spray that a bit. I think I could be a bit warmer here. Okay, time to get in here. I know I don't have enough of this. I know. I'm convinced. So more. Come on. A whole lot more. Pick up some cadmium red, put it in there. Right, okay, so let's go. So you can see what I mean by needing enough to do it all, and how it opens up. It really does open up with the brush stroke. And so now let's get into this. You can see I think it needs a little bit more tonal darkness up there, but I know it will cascade down if I've got the right kind of if I've got the right consistency here, then it will do quite a lot of work for me. And I just picked up some red there. I must keep, this is like doing a washing away, because I've got to get across here while I've still got enough pigment to play with. So I keep mixing as I go, and all of that is good because it gives variation to the mix and the whole appearance of the bridge. Let's keep going. Okay, so far so good. I'm using the sable because it gives you just it gives you a feeling of more control. And I tend to the shadows obviously later. I can go in now here, but I'm not actually trying to do the shadow. I'm just I don't want to get any lines. I don't want any lines in my wash here, because that's pretty much what it is. And then there's a colour change here. So it goes changes a bit here. So we'll just let the paint do the work. It's just about timing here. And this is all, as I say, that's why it's called wet and wet. I have to do the work here while this while the paint is wet. I've given myself a rest there, obscured that one, and then here we're going to have some, I think, probably got a little bit of spray there. And while I've got this here, what I'll do is I'll just add in a few marks. It must be thicker, otherwise it will blob, and it needs to be darker, frankly. Darker, yeah. Some darker ones here, darker there. In fact, this whole line there. And let's have a look there. You need confident brush strokes here. It's no time to get tentative, and I'll just work away. Got these ones here to think about. No great detail, obviously, but they are there and to be acknowledged. Some kind of detail up here. So I'm doing all this wet into wet so that we've got soft edges. You don't want this, well, I don't want this to be all hard edged. Not at all. And so I'm just keeping an eye on how the paint is reacting as it goes in here. It's still diffusing quite easily. And I think it needs a little bit of definition here. Not so keen on that one. Pick that up and a bit more in here. So the whole thing is quite sensitive at this point to how wet the paper is. So you can see I'm doing some things again because the paper is absorbing what I put down, and it's something I can play with, but I've got to do it now. I can't do it later. It will turn into a hard edge later, and I don't want a hard edge kind of feel to this. I want it all to be soft. So just a bit of control with the point of the brush. And I think it's happening. What I might do now is look at the underside of the bridge and just have a little look at that. So I also want this to melt in for the below, but I need this for dimension. The shape is important. I should maybe do this one first. I should have done this one first because it's less important. So I could get something here slightly wrong and then learn from it before I do this one. Anyway, there you go. You live and learn. And nice bit of contrast obviously we get from this. So as you can see, yes, you do get a lot of contrast. And these ribs underneath here. Which I guess are important feature here. Just add a little bit more water as we get underneath and just do that. Wow, the sun has really shot out of the sky now. That's great. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Let's do a little bit of this here. Type art. I have to come back and do that later. Right. So far so good. I think just a little bit of extra detail here. The thing is that you have to do a minimum amount of detail and then it follows to the viewer's eye that everything else must be done in the same detail even though it isn't. So this detail here means that it's assumed over here, if you get my drift. And so I'm putting in just a little bit more brickwork here. And a bit here. Obviously I could do some of this at the end, but I feel compelled to do it now. Just a few important lines. And just don't overdo it. Okay, so far so good. I think I'll leave that there. I think you could overdo this just now, but it's better to get on with the rest of the painting. I wonder what's that was all about. Okay, so I think I'll need to do this here and just lock in that far edge of the composition. So I'll mix up some green. No, I may mix on top of this. I think I'll mix on top of this. It means I get the same. I'm more likely to get the right tone, a matching tone, because those trees over there, I know they're a different colour, but they have to be pretty much the same tone as what I have. just been painting. So this is the one where you mix. You should try and mix this on the paper, like this. So as you can see, I'm mixing actually on the paper. I'm going to get a drier edge here. I don't want these trees to be too dominant. But as you can see, they are slightly darker than the background. Sorry, than the bridge. And so again, this is one of these ones you mustn't fuss over. Just try to get something convincing here in tonal terms. And that. Okay, good. Yep, just dab that, but let me carry on. So I'm trying to get a mix here, something a bit darker to give and then it comes down to the base here and gets a little bit more colourful. Enough, probably enough colour. And you want this stuff to paint itself in, as I think of it. There we are. I can always, if it's too strong, I can do something about it later. And now I'll do a bit of this. And a little bit of this here. Don't fuss over it, just knock it in. The shape's important though. Here it's too strong. Too strong. And I'll just give a little edge to this. Water's edge there. Bit of that. Okay, so far so good, as it keeps saying. And yeah. Okay, so I think that has popped in the those major tones. I need to consolidate this a bit, or I can do the. I think I'd do the river next. Yeah, I think that's what I'd do. It's time to do the river. And a warm grey there. Yeah, time for the river. Okay, I'm going to move from a 12 to a 10. Just give me slightly more control. And one of the things I've got to remember is my spray. Keeps everything active, but so far I'm just half closing my eyes. I think tonally this is nearly there. Whether it needs more detail, we'll wait and see once this stuff is all in. Right. What I need to do probably is consult my reference shot that I took earlier. So let me just pick that up. Here we are. I need this for the shapes of the reflections, really. That's what I need. I'll start here, then I think I'll do this bit. Yeah. This is very dark, high contrast. It's exaggerated on a phone. But I want to get these shapes so that we get to these foreground ripples. There's some nice stuff going on in the background there, and I want to capture it. It's looks like quite a rich green we've got there. So that's probably too rich, so I need to knock that down a little bit with some burnt sienna, a little bit of cobalt blue. These decisions just come with experience and then a bit of instinct as to what you're looking for. Just going to pop that there just now and see if this is correct. It looks like it. A little bit more water into the consistency there, and let's just going to pick up a little bit of this, a bit of that there, and then we'll put something darker underneath it. Well, that's just been broken. What I'm looking at, what I'm trying to paint is just been disturbed by a boat going underneath the river. Let's see if I can remember what happened there. And I think that does it. There might be a fainter one going across there. In a way, you certainly want that. Yeah. Not too much fiddling, George. Okay, yeah. Don't get tied up in that. There's a little bit of the base of boats. I think I've got to do the base of the boats. So maybe a little bit more blue here. It's not any colour really. But there are some shapes there that are important. Okay, I think that's going to read as boats in due course. Yeah, that'll do. Okay, sun's come out again. And now time to get into these deeper shadows. So I pick up ultramarine blue. I have to get the right consistency of mix again, because you cannot run out of this. You do this all in one go. A bit of that, and it's quite deep and neutralized. Pick up some neutral grey there. Yeah, you don't want too much colour in this. I just want enough of the pigment that I feel sure I'm not going to run out. Cobalt turquoise. Yeah, cobalt turquoise is good. What else can I put in here? I'll keep going back to this one. My old friend, burnt sienna. A bit of neutral grey again. A bit of that. Cadmium yellow. And I think we're pretty much good to go. I'm going to have to work off of the screen for this one, just in terms of shapes. Here we are. Okay, so let's do this left hand side. Oh, a slightly soft edge here. So introduce some of these it would be a mistake to try to be too precise about this. I'm telling myself. I'm just going to get something ready here, because I may want something slightly softer there. So what I've done is I've just wet it, and I'll enter into that part very soon, and then I'll see if my strategy for it has worked or not. I'm just picking up some more pigment, because of course I've run out. You need your brush really loaded here, and I'm coming into the area where I wet it. So I should be getting softer edges here. And there you go. Softer edges. I think that's what I want anyway. I believe so. I may need to be darker. I may need to be more patient and wait. So carrying on, I'll keep that there. This is where you need a brush with a good point, and you simply have to commit to this. Be broader here, broader brush stroke. Okay, really concentrating, as you can imagine, and then these strokes carry on, don't they? They do, they carry on here. Okay, keep going. What I need to do is mix some of this up again. What did I use? I used burnt sienna, neutral grey to get it dark, didn't I? Okay, so now I come down from here. I've got this here. I'll do a few Z's. Z's usually help. So far, so good. Slight change in tone here, just here. And that goes like that. It does that, and then we need to join up. How much? Gone quiet there. Yeah. It was just necessary to concentrate, I'm afraid. just necessary to concentrate a tad, and just as I come down here, and get into this, just needs a little bit of this here. Okay, the boat. Better do the boat now. The boat. Well, you see it's a white boat, so that's always quite tricky to figure out what is the actual tone. But I think it's something like this. And bring this along the side. Let this come down. Okay, as I keep saying, so far so good. Just need a little bit of this up here. And I just wanted to keep a bit of deck clear. So you need a really nice brush. So I'm just feathering this off so I get the shape. I can maybe do a bit of work later on that. Okay. The trail comes out the back there. I think actually it needs to be slightly darker on that base. Certainly does. And then we've got a few bits and pieces here. Okay, I'm just going to take a step back. Okay, so now I need to get this in place and then go back and do detail on the boat. So this is a bit of a free-for-all here. Might do a bit of spattering and throwing paint around. But I'll start at the top and then get my confidence up as I move down. A couple of brushes here that might help. I've got this sword liner and this reservoir rigger. So that's the reservoir, this is the pointy rigger part. That, as long as you keep it upright like this, the pigment and the water will drain down, giving you a nice supply to the point. This is a sword brush. You can see it's got a slightly frayed edge, a diagonal shape. Sorry, not a diagonal. It's got an angled head, and you use this for really free brushwork. So I'll mix up my colour here with a bit of cadmium yellow, cobalt turquoise, just to get it started. Then I'll go in here for some ultramarine blue, and always burnt sienna. Starts to get the mix going. Sun's just come out again. I need whilst I know this is, I mean, I look at the leaves and they're green, but I'm not going to paint every leaf, so I'm going to need darker tone to bring all of this foreground to me, towards me. That's what we need. So I'm just mixing up more and more of this. And more. So that's a kind of mid-tone there, not quite dark enough. I might go and pick up some neutral grey here just to bring it all down. And see, okay, so that's going to dry very quickly. So a few brush strokes like this to just get into it. Yeah, that's working quite well. I'm just this stuff here is what I'm doing here is it's just got to have energy and life and bring this towards me, and it's just a brush mark there to establish a banking. So now I can use this a little bit more freely. You can also do that. And you get nice random stuff going on here. Yeah, I might go back in here, a bit of blue. And we want some colour mixing, I think, on here. And then pick up some blue and do the same. So you want variation here. And actually you start to find that on a particular day certain things suggest themselves to you, and on that day you go for it. A bit of lighter green here that I might just pop in, but now I need to get into some of this. So establish some of these marks here, and then I shall pop in some stronger stuff here. It's all about making this corner dark enough that it holds the corner down in terms of the composition. But it's, in a way, it's out of focus, isn't it? It's all this stuff is out of focus. So also here need to indicate some foliage. Like this, and this is all a bit of a free-for-all here. You can do whatever you want. I'm going to mix up some more colourful, well, stronger green for some of these highlights, And so I'm not going to be specific about what the plants are. I am just trying to create a kind of impression. Okay, actually nettles here, but I like them for their shape. And then I can move into some of this here, which is different. Getting some nice soft edges here, and around about here I've got some a different type of shape. That the brush and the pigment does so much of the work here, and it's best like that. You can, I mean, I'm sure you can sit there and do detail. It's not the kind of work I want to do, so in no way am I attempting to be critical of different style. It's just not my style. I want to do this in an impressionist style, and I think it's just fun. I might need to go and just get some more different type of paint on my palette here, to do some of the things I can see. And as you can see, a lot of this rough work is very impressionistic. I'm going to just pick up some lemon yellow. Lemon yellow. It's quite thick and it's quite opaque, and it gives you these really nice highlights that you couldn't get any other way. It's just thick paint. So far so good. I know I keep saying that, and I know there's still more to do in this painting, so I should really not get too bound up in this. That would be a mistake. So I shall quit this very soon. And get back to the job of finishing the painting in some of its important areas. Some of this I don't quite like. Too much, too light. Yeah. I think that's better. Okay, I've now got to do the boat and the cyclist, I think. So these brushes, for the moment anyway, they've done their job. And I'm going to think about what I'm going to pick up for the boat. I'm going to have to use my reference. Pick on my phone for the boat. There we go. Right, okay. So the boat needs a window. Is that dry? Yeah. Boat needs a window, and so let's pick up some cool grey. Cool grey. And the window goes something like this. Come on. Got various, might put a touch of colour in this, touch of cobalt blue, goes in here. And a line along the boat, there's another one, seems to go there. It's various bits and pieces. There's also there's also, I'm going to have to use some white on this, but I still haven't got my line here sufficiently strong. To sit the boat down in the water. So, I mean, this is important, so I've got to pay some attention to it. Is that better, or is it worse? I don't know. Let's just pop in something darker here, right on the prow. And that may well be enough. There's, can't get too hung up on detail, but it probably has some kind of name here. And then I'm going to pick up some white paint. No, not blue paint. White. And do these railings that are at the front of the boat. So in a way, what I'm saying now is we've finished the wet and wet. I've started to use dry brush strokes. That always appears right out of the... It's not as if you stop at the end of wet and wet and then think, right, now it's dry brush stroke time. You just start applying them because it's you know that that's what's needed. So I'll just put that down there. It's going to splurge out. My boat, yeah, there's some of that going on. And there's one of these up here. Goes up there. There's another one down here. So far so good. I'm not going to put an upper deck on. That's probably enough. Just emphasize that one a little bit. Okay, boat. Yeah, let's leave it at that for now. Don't worry about all the other bits and pieces. I've got to get these cyclists in. So they're just a dark shape, frankly. You mustn't think of them in too much detail. It's the shape, the posture is what will tell us they are cyclists. They might provide a bit of colour as well. Yep. I think a bit of colour would be good. I'm going to pick up, I'm going to start with a that is a cool grey. But I need thickness of pigment. Okay, so what colour? They are going to be probably on the warm side. So they've got to be neutral grey and brown madder. And, you know, I'm going to have a little practice here. Practice on that lot. So there's a good point here, and so let's just get some of this down. And you'll notice that it's important to join the shapes up rather than two separate shapes. But I've got to get yeah, I've got to be, I don't want that line, I don't want any highlight around them. Let's put a bit of red on one of them. Another one might be blue. Try this. My cobalt blue is completely dried up. I should actually resuscitate it. Okay, well there's the cyclist. I'm just going to pop in some of this. It was there earlier. Because there was a flower there. And I quite liked that. It's a nice dash of colour. Right. Let's take a look and see if I've done enough here. maybe a little bit of something here. I should have done this earlier. Pick up some of that. That was the lemon yellow. See if I can. Just picking up some of that, and I think I'll do a little bit here. This could be darker still. Just looking for some rhythm here. A little bit more light and shade. Okay, we may be done here because you can go on forever. Just a few bits that are calling out for some attention. Here, right in the foreground. Need to be darker, darker. And just break some of these rhythms. Bring that over just a little bit, and same time as I do that, some dry brush strokes. There's a nice tiny little highlight there. Okay, I think I'll take the tape off and we'll see what we've got. There's more that could be done, and it may be appropriate to do that later. Once this is all settled, I can still see that some of these need a little bit more conviction here. But again, you could do too much if you do it on site. They're just details, they won't change the overall picture. So, time to take the tape off. As you can see, I've taken the tape off, and it's given me a chance to have a more considered look at it. And sometimes this happens, that there is one thing I think I'd like to do just to help help the painting. It's very subtle, and it's to give a little bit of dimension here. The bridge looks slightly flat to me, so the light is coming from here. You can see that because it hits the top of the boat, so it highlights very subtly this facet here. If I take that down there, I may have been too subtle, but probably have. That may help, because this occurs right in the centre of the painting, remember, and it may just give a little bit of dimension. So that would need to dry. Maybe I have to do it here. So here we are on the Thames at Clifton, Hampden, and this is the final painting in front of me. I took a long hard look at it after I took the tape off, and I just decided to do one thing, which was add essentially a bit of a glaze over this central panel here in order to create very subtle difference in lighting from this panel to this panel. I think it's helped. Generally speaking, when I started this painting, the light wasn't as it is behind me now. Nothing like that. It was very dull, overcast and flat. So that's what I painted. I'd get a completely different painting if I started now. But watercolour painting is a performance at one point in time under certain lighting conditions, and that's what's so challenging about it, and also what's so fun. Thanks.